Hey, everybody. Very special guest, Neal Barnard. The doctor is in the house. I'll tell you what that means in just a second. Lead guitarist, founder of the incredible rock group CarbonWorks, best-selling author and renowned doctor specializing in nutrition research and more. Neal Barnard is with us here, and we're very excited because the group that he founded and that he is the lead guitarist of is extraordinary. And they have music out with a real positive message. There's a song out. I'm going to tell you about that in just a second. That is designed and was designed during the pandemic. We always whisper that now. That is aimed to calm and relax and ease during a tough time. And beautiful stuff that they put out, and really, really terrific group. Let me tell you, the doctor is experienced again in nutrition, and we'll sprinkle a little of that in too, but he's also a best-selling author. Here's a fantastic song, Everything's All Right, what I was talking about, calming and relaxing, but also to make you think about the positive things and the important things that make life what it is and make life special. Here's another one too, Training That Works. We're going to talk about this. Again, he is surrounded by an extraordinary group of musicians and talented artists that make up CarbonWorks. And, as he and I were sort of laughing during the prep before the show, I thought I was busy. And there he is. Yes, he is an actual medical doctor and renowned. I'm sure you're familiar with his work. We were talking about how we are so busy and both working, in our respective fields, doing so much. And but this is also a fantastic outlet for him too. This is something that he's very, very proficient at, loves doing. So he founded the group, put it all together, lead guitarist, all the music created by CarbonWorks, and it's really, really cool stuff. So you're going to get a chance to learn more about it. We'll point you in the direction of where you'll be able to get the music and so much more through their website and everything else. He is happening to be in Washington, D.C. And of course, we're here in the New York area. We welcome everybody that is watching from all around the world. We have an international audience of lovities. Yes, we said that the show has a lot of light, love, and levity, right? Remember I said that for those that watch regularly since almost day one, 2.5 years ago, almost 900 episodes ago. I said the show has a lot of light, love, and levity, and I said it too fast, and out spurted the word levity. L-O-V-E-I-T-Y, combining love and levity. And it's been just magic ever since with all these episodes and great guests who say hello to our JMS Levity family. That is the folks that watch. Those are the folks that watch all the time. And once you watch one episode, you're a Levity. You're in the family. A lot of comments coming in as well in our JMS Levity chat room. If you have a comment that you'd like to share, maybe you'd like to say hello to each other, if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, that's where we house all of these incredible episodes, hundreds and hundreds of episodes. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you'd like to comment live as well. And you can actually participate in our JMS Levity live chat room, which is open and available for all of you right now. You can say hello to each other, say hello to us. You might even have a chance to sprinkle a comment or two on our screen, because we're a very interactive entertainment lifestyle variety talk show host, bringing you guys in as well. So if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, the channel you're watching right now, and there's no cost to do that, click that notification bell so you never miss any of the episodes and you get alerts about all the content and all the shows. And if you subscribe, guess what happens? You get to chat right now in the JMS Levity chat room. And it's a really cool place to be, a real positive place. A lot of people have made friends with each other in that chat room, which is open and available right now. So excited to welcome Neal Barnard here to the show and talk about his extraordinary career, all the fabulous music that's coming up as well, and some of the projects that they've completed recently right here on the Jim Masters Show Live. Join me in welcoming the doctor, or Neal, live and direct from Washington, D.C. Neal, welcome to the Jim Masters Show Live series. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Hey there, Jim. It's great to see you. Great to be with you today.
You as well. So busy time for you, huh? You wear so many different hats. best-selling author, renowned doctor, and of course, a talented musician and founder of that great group. When did you decide to do the group, create the group? What inspired you to create CarbonWorks? Because your plate is already full, day in and day out anyway. When did you decide to music is what we need to share with the world as well?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking, Jim. I got to tell you, music for me was way before I got into medicine. When I was a kid, I grew up in North Dakota, kind of middle of nowhere. But my parents had the idea that if you were going to grow up properly, you had to play the piano. So by age 6, I was chained to the piano. And then you had to take another instrument. So I played the cello. And so all during my formative years, that's what it was. It was all classical. But I think I was a little too young to really relate to it. And suddenly, the Beatles came on Ed Sullivan. And you've seen the broadcast. Suddenly,
Yes.
my black and white world turned to color. The music was assertive. It was loud. It was fun. It irritated my mom. And I thought, okay, this is it. So I understood the value of classical music. That brings the restraint. That brings the professionalism. But I strapped on this guitar, plugged it into the amp, and I thought, now I'm going to make some music. So that was it. And I had bands as a kid, and then I kept with my training, and even in medical school and residency, I had bands. Washington, D.C., kind of a quiet town, a government town. At night, you could hear a pin drop, really.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of new wave and punk music going on when I was in medical school. So I had a band throughout all that time. And what led to CarbonWorks, I got to tell you, Jim, I started to really appreciate the value of music that was not right here, that was not typical styles that we might play, that was not necessarily in English. Music inspired by other countries, and I started working with a wonderful singer from Italy. Her name is Dolce. She's wonderful, a beautiful French singer named Laura Lotz, and some others. And we're playing around with a lot of stuff that makes this big salad that you call music. So CarbonWorks, you're going to hear. There's jazzy, bluesy stuff. There's quiet, pretty things, some kind of cutting edge, aggressive things. Unlike other bands where the songs are all kind of in the same genre, it's more of a landscape. It's more of almost like a movie soundtrack where it's going to go from one thing to another. So CarbonWorks is the extension of what I've been doing all along, and it's just more of it. And as you said, the musicians are fabulous. They really push me, but we have a blast with it.
How did you come up with the name? How did CarbonWorks develop as a name?
Names are tough. I gotta tell you, but and then what's in a name? People say Beatles. What is a Beatle?
Right.
What is a Rolling Stone? Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
But CarbonWorks.
It's only important if it's unturned.
You're it. And the name really means we are carbon. We are made from carbon.
Right.
These are our works. See what you think. So it's kind of a big name, but that's the idea.
That's terrific. And how did you assemble the great talent that's with you as well? That must have been quite a process, finding the folks who, of the similar vein, who are excited about this, with this wonderful amalgamation of the blending of sounds from different lands and cultures. How'd you assemble the crew?
Well, the roots of this or at least my kind of the mental attitude started when I was a teenager. I mentioned I grew up in North Dakota, but when I was 16, I was sent as an exchange student to Europe. And I knew a little bit of French, and I was sent to Belgium, but I was sent to the northern part of Belgium where they speak Flemish. So suddenly I found myself in a culture, didn't speak a word of Flemish. The family that took me in did not speak English. And they had completely different values, different politics. Everything that I had grown up with was different. And I got to tell you, Jim, I felt like while I was there and everything that I was familiar with was gone, it was as if somebody had opened up my head, took out my brain, put it in a bucket of ice water and swirled it around. And everything I thought I knew was gone. They put it back in. So I started absorbing different linguistic traditions, and I would sit down with the kids in the family and try to learn their linguistic approach, and I would share what I knew. And I started listening to music and absorbing languages, and I started noticing a couple things. that languages have a music of their own. For example, if you listen to French, the consonants are very understated. You don't hear them a lot. The vowels come out. So it's kind of like a saxophone. It really plays. English, the consonants, we speak them clearly. It's like a piano, almost like a harpsichord. Spanish is a little bit that way too. So I started thinking, you can write in a language. But in the same way as you're going to pick an instrument for a song, you can pick the language that it's in. So anyway, I had a song that I was writing, and I wrote it in French. I couldn't find the right singer. I tried different folks. It wasn't really working for me. I was out jogging one day in Sacramento, running down the road, and I was just listening to a Belgian radio station. And I heard this out of this world singer. And I just stopped. And I tried to memorize the name on the way back to the hotel. As soon as I got back, I called her. She was living in Italy. I said, I want you to come to the US. When can you get here? And that's Dolce. And she came over and is every bit as good as advertised. And so anyway, just bottom line, over time, I met different people at different times, and I am not shy. George Clooney's movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Where in that movie, Clooney's breaking out of prison and whatnot, and he meets the devil, who is at the crossroads, who is Chris Thomas King, this guitar player who's with them the rest of the time. I'm at Blues Alley in Washington, D.C. Chris Thomas King is there. I'm listening to him. I'm just dying because he is really the successor of B.B. King and Freddie King and that whole tradition. He finishes his set. And I went backstage. I said, I need you in the studio. When can you come in? And I bent his arm. I talked him into it. And so Chris joined us, and we went in the studio. And he played blues over a song I'd written in 7/4 time. The wildest, craziest thing. But it worked out great. So anyway, I'm kind of digressing, Jim. Bottom line.
It's a great like train. Yeah.
The bottom line is, you pick in the same way as an orchestra is going to pick the best people for the solos and things you need. When I pick our group, I find people who they're not all the same demographic. They may not live in the same town or same country or whatever, but we get together and we just make it work. And that diversity is just really cool and fun.
So how do you really describe the sound? Is there a way to really even describe the sound? Because it sounds so eclectic in many ways, touching apart a lot of different sounds and feelings.
The bad part of that is if you were in a used vinyl shop and you've got, here's your rock, here's your jazz, here's your country. Mm-hmm. People are going to take a CarbonWorks album and they're going to be throwing it in all the different bins. The good part of it is that it becomes very fresh and really, really fun. But if you ask me for a word, I would say it's international. Its roots are clearly in rock, but I have jammed in a lot of stuff. Earlier, my previous records, there was a lot of Vietnamese in there. I just fell in love with the Asian, sometimes a little bit of a painful vibe that came into the music. But I also I've done a lot of work in French and Italian as well. So anyway, I would call it international.
Have you traveled the world absorbing that as well?
To a degree. And I do lectures in both English and French. And I run programs in Spanish and Mandarin also. So, those are things. And if I got to tell you, you try everything. If it doesn't work, you throw it out. So.
That's cool. That's fantastic. So what was one of the first things you did as a group that really sort of propelled things going forward, or people started really noticing and appreciating the CarbonWorks sound?
Yeah, I think it really started with groups that we had before CarbonWorks. I had a really in DC's music scene, my group Pop Maru was this kind of angrier, a little more adolescent sound. And we would play at the old 930 Club, which was the classic club in DC back when it was at 930 F Street. And so that was a little more industrial new wave, a little angrier. And then with CarbonWorks, it's still very assertive, but we've continued in the same vibe. of really exploring a lot. Every song on our previous album turned into a video because I just found I didn't want to only be on the radio. I wanted to use the power of images. And one I got to tell you, you mentioned this briefly in the introduction, that a lot of people really appreciated when the pandemic was starting in 2020. Every musician unplugged, went home. You couldn't play out. The clubs were all closed. And people were freaking out, and this was like April, May 2020.
That's when we launched this, in April.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly. And everybody had to figure out a way to talk to each other in these rectangles, which is a blessing in a way, because you can reach people on the rings of Saturn. You can reach people on every single continent. But
I'm going to use that. Coming to you from the rings of Saturn. I like that. Write that down. That's new branding.
I decided that I wanted to do a song, not exactly a children's song, but a song that was kind and gentle, didn't have anything bad in it. And it was really a lullaby. And I wrote it in French first, but then I also put it in English. And it's a short little song. And one of the motivations for it is I was thinking about kids in the pandemic. You can't go to school anymore. There's something bad out in the world. People are dying. Somebody might be killed or whatever. So I decided to write this song. And I didn't want to be Pollyanna about it. I didn't want to say, no problems, don't worry, no. What I wanted to say is basically, everything's okay tonight. You can go to sleep. You're going to wake up in the morning. And I was remembering, I got to tell you, my when I was a kid, my little brother, one night he went to sleep, or he was going to sleep, and my mother tucked him in and she said, David, nighty night, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite.
Yes.
And his eyes like shot open. What is a bed bug? And the poor kid couldn't sleep at all. And I started thinking of the things we tell children. Three blind mice cut off their tails with a carving knife. Jack and Jill went up the hill, and then Jack came down. I guess he had a neurological injury. In French, it's alouette, jolt, alouette. You're ripping the feathers off this poor live bird. I started thinking, why do we say such creepy things to kids?
Humpty Dumpty falls off the wall, cracks his egg.
Exactly.
When you think about it, it's horrific stuff.
It is. I thought, okay, I'm going to do a song that doesn't have any bad images in it. And so I wrote this song. It's in French, it's tout ira bien, but that means everything's going to be fine tonight. And it's images of going to sleep. The stars are shining. Everything's great. And the video of it was animals all yawning. It's the cutest thing you've ever seen. It's on YouTube already. And it's on the new record. But you'll see all these cute animals, from lizards to frogs, all yawning and going to sleep. It's real footage. And of all the things, I got to tell you, Jim, that have happened in my career, the absolute nicest one was I got a message from a woman who said, my 4-year-old son watched your video, and he cannot go to sleep without watching it in English, and he names all the musicians, and he starts it over and watches it in French and watches all the musicians, and then clunk, this little baby goes to sleep.
Right.
And I thought, that's what music is all about.
So the response has been terrific. People are really getting, they've been attached to that song, and it's comforting them, putting them at ease, which is fantastic. I'm sure as much the kids, the adults too, when they hear it.
Yeah, exactly. And music, about half my songs are some kind of cause, some kind of message. Everyone's got something they want to say. I don't write about broken relationships or things I'm angry about, but I do write about the need for compassion and things like that. But you have to be, you can't be didactic. You've got to have it. It's got to be musical. It's got to be fun. It's got to be nice lyrics. And then the other half of the songs I do have no message at all. They are just music that I'm doing because it's a vibe or it's fun. And so my hope is that people like all of those, because we do want to change the world with our music if we can, but you also want to give people just some brain space to tap their foot and have fun.
Right. You got to have the balance in life. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of balance, how are you able to balance that all out with your work as a medical professional, as a doctor, and you're a best-selling author as well, but just the day-to-day of the work that you do as a doctor.
Yeah, well, I started medical school and continued to play music, did my residency and stuff. I got to tell you, Jim, it doesn't always work out perfectly. One time, early in my career, when I was a resident, which is in your advanced training, I was working in a hospital psychiatric ward at the time in DC, and I was playing at the 930 Club, and I'm getting ready to go on stage, and the door opens up, and into my dressing room, where the band's there, we got our instruments, we're tuning up. Into my dressing room comes a woman who had been a patient on the psychiatric ward, and she was not so seriously ill. They would let her leave on a pass and then go back in, and she was only hospitalized for basically an eating disorder, so she was not psychotic or whatever. Anyway, she walks into the dressing room, sees her doctor, does this double take. What is her doctor doing there? And she walks out. So anyway, Monday morning, I walk into the hospital. I'm doing my shift, and one of the attending physicians grabs me, and he says, "Neal, we got a big problem. Here is this patient. I'm going to call her Mary. Mary is hallucinating. We need to put her on medications." I said, "What are you talking about?" "She thinks she saw you playing in a punk band. She's obviously psychotic. We got to increase her medications." I said, "No, well, she may not be exactly psychotic." Anyway, they thought that she was hallucinating by the fact that she'd seen me. But anyway, the two work together. My work in medicine is very often to try to heal people. Well, it's always to try to heal people, to empower them, and in many ways to make their lives easier, and music is a big part of that. Medicine, science speaks to the brain. Music speaks to the heart. And sometimes when the heart opens up, the brain is willing to listen a little bit more. So I'm very eager to integrate them. And once in a while, I keep thinking, not to get overly technical, but a lot of the problems we see relate to people eating bad stuff, drinking things that are not exactly helpful for them. And what they're really searching for is a hit of dopamine. Dopamine is the brain chemical that gives us pleasure. Music gives you a little squirt of dopamine too. Meaning that if people are surrounded by beauty and surrounded by art and surrounded by things that really make them feel good, the need for dangerous substances, including unhealthy junk food and so forth, it can be replaced a little bit. So pump that music into your life. It can have a medicinal effect.
It's so true, isn't it? It's so incredibly true.
Yeah.
I tell people, because I have a lot of music and I've always enjoyed it and collect and involved in it, that I never smoked. I don't smoke, but music is my cigarette.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I say it, because it can, it's very therapeutic. And I'm sure for you too, it's a nice balance from the day-to-day in working in the medical field, because you see everything working in the medical field. You hear every story, you see everything, the good, the bad, the sad. And for you, it's sort of cathartic to work it out through music, huh?
There is nothing funner than plugging in your instruments, getting the band together and just playing together, whether you're performing or working together in the studio or just jamming. I don't exactly know why, but something about that collaboration just is really, really, really a cool thing to do. So I've always absolutely loved that. And I have to say, I have really learned a few things too. A few years ago, I was working with the band, and I got into a real groove on the guitar. We were just kind of jamming and playing. And I got into a groove, and I was really excited to feel like I had just one nuance after another coming out of my guitar, and I felt really great. And then I looked up, and I realized I had kind of turned all the other musicians into just accompanists while I was doing my thing, and I thought, stop. If you back off a little bit and let other people come in and stand up to the front and do what they're doing, it enriches the music, it enriches you too. So I really realized that the collaboration, it's fun, it's also essential, and that's what makes the music great. With the lullaby that I was mentioning earlier, I thought it was beautiful. I wrote the whole thing, but we're in the studio, and Jeff, our cellist, says, "Neal, just stand back for a second. I want you to hear this." And he finishes off the song. For people who, if you get a chance to listen to the lullaby, the very last measure, you'll hear him playing on this cello, just this quiet little sequence that just seals the song. And I thought, Jeff, I could never have written that in a million years.
Right.
But you know your instrument, you know how to make it sing. And I thought, that is the thing. And I got to say, as a writer, as a composer, if the song is only what I came up with, it is never as good as what I came up with what other people added to it, and you put it all together.
The cello is one of the most beautiful instruments on the planet. And I interviewed a cellist in my professional work who was a Juilliard graduate. And I mentioned this a couple of times. And I said, whenever I hear the cello, it just sort of stops traffic for me. It just goes right to my heart and soul. And it just gets really deep. And it just really can be very overpowering, sort of with its warm, deep tone, its melancholy textures. And I said, whenever I hear that cello, it reminds me that if the human heart was to ever make the sound of an instrument, for me, the cello would be the sound it would make. And he said, Jim, that makes total sense. I totally understand what you're saying. I said, you do? And he said, yeah, because he said the cello is one of those instruments that's closest in sound to the human voice. So that's why you're humanizing it. That's why you're giving it this depth and you're really seriously connecting with it. So in this case here, with such a powerful song that was meant to really go deep and touch people and make them think and make them feel, to allow him to do what he wanted to do and add in those extra textures from the cello towards the latter part is brilliant. It's fantastic. That just gives it that little extra heartfelt feeling to be left with, huh?
I think you're right, Jim. When I was a kid, I took up the cello starting at age 9.
You did,
and exactly what you're saying is how I felt. That it is, and you hold it at your heart, and you're playing this instrument, and it's deeper than the violin. It's more, in my view, more profound than the viola, but it is not so down as the bass. And you're really speaking from your body. It feels that way. However, it also can have a real lonely feel.
Yes,
you're playing this and you're thinking it's like the saxophonist on the bridge in the rain by himself. You think I need more to it. So yes, I think the cello is a very human instrument, but it also can feel very lonely, and so that's why you want to bring in the other instruments to be with it. And we've played with exactly this thought. On the first CarbonWorks record, we had a suite called The End of the World. And in the third part of The End of the World suite, it starts off cello, violin, viola, playing this real classical themes, kind of a Baroque theme, almost Bach. And then suddenly in comes this jazz with a stand-up bass, while the instruments are like playing over the top. And it's funny how you can get the earthiness of the jazz, that classical feeling that comes from the cello and the violins, and if you mix them together and they're playing over the same time signature, they blend in this astounding way. And so nobody is alone. They are combining in ways that feel like human interaction, sometimes get a little crazy. When the album was mastered, we worked with Bernie Grundman, who is like the world's greatest mastering engineer in the universe. He's in LA. And I said, Bernie, I want to sit with you during the mastering. He said, okay, come on out to LA. So we were sitting there in his studio and he's mastering the whole thing. When he got to that cut, and we got to the end, and he had heard all the classical instruments playing and the jazz bass playing, and there's a horn over the top and everything. And then it went bang, stop. Everybody stopped at the same time. He turned to me and he said, chaos. And I said, Bernie, you just made my day. Exactly. So here's my point. My point is the cello is the human heart. It's speaking out, but it is also alone, and it has to be in with the other musicians to really feel good, unless you want to go for that lonely feel, which you can't. And then I like to also play with the limits of it. So if you can bring in a little bit of conflict, have it resolve, and you don't want to go into complete atonal, at least not for me. You want to make sure that somebody feels the music all the way through. It can replicate, in my view, kind of the human experience that has all these emotions packed into it.
What inspires you to create the music? What are some of the things that you observe, that you feel day to day, Neal, that trigger the inspiration for a song?
One song that's just now out, one of the first songs we're releasing from the new album is called Athena. And it started off with just music, which is what usually happens to me. I don't start with lyric. It starts with music.
With the music.
But in this case, it was a peculiar thing. I was in a hotel room and I woke up at 4 a.m, and you're in this kind of kooky time between night and day. And this saxophone song just came into my head. And, that'll happen. And you just like playing with it. And you're hearing it. And I don't know where it comes from. And you think, did I steal that? Did I see that in a movie? No, this is a new thing. And I knew if I went back to sleep, I would lose it. This happens to me all the time. I got the world's greatest song, but if you go back to sleep, you will not have it in the morning. So I thought, darn, I got to get up. Yeah. And so I got up and I wrote Athena, which is quite a long song. But it's this most beautiful horn line played by Bobby Reed, who's just out of this world. And then Allegra, who's our violinist, and I then take it from there. Allegra's on the violin and I'm on the guitar, and we take it from there. And I thought, well, what is this really about? The music started out sultry, and then it built to this more climactic, almost triumphant Alleluia chorus kind of thing, right, at the end. And I thought, well, my worldview, which I'm not asking anybody to buy, but I have to say, I really don't feel that life has a particular meaning. I am not a religious person, and I don't necessarily think things are going to work out well. However, that's a downer, and you don't want to write a song like that. So I thought, well, what if this is the case? If there is pain in the world, what can I say that a person would actually want to hear? So anyway, the lyrics, I think, are good. It's about life being rather humans being launched into their corporal existence by sort of a mischievous goddess. And she has launched us toward our fate, thrown the key down the well. We're stuck. We got to live out our lives. And at the end,
it sort of feels like that the last few years.
Yeah, exactly. And it started. So Laura, who is a wonderful singer, she sings in French and also sings in German. She sings this in French in this beautiful, understated way, and the song begins, and it's just so lovely. And then Allegra and I just do all the music stuff and let it evolve. And then Laura comes back, and she has now got something to say. And it is, what she is saying is in Latin. And she's taking the Beatitudes, blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are the meek, and whatever. But she changes it. So the scripture says, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. I don't think that's true. I'm sorry to say. I think the world is crueler than that. So I wrote, blessed are the meek, for they shall understand irony. And blessed are the merciful, not because they will obtain mercy. They won't. I don't think the world is fair that way. So I wrote, blessed are the merciful, for they have shown mercy. Here's the message that I'm trying to get across. And I don't mean to be didactic, and forgive me for that. But the point is, in this crazy world, that's frankly getting crazier and more aggressive, maybe the best thing you can do is to find a way to be kind and to be compassionate without expecting a reward. What you have done is important in and of itself. Whether the person that you are helping is a rich person, a patient who can pay you, a poor person, a homeless person, an animal, which over time, I have to say, I've seen a lot of animals being abused in laboratories and that kind of thing. And so my thought is, I'm trying to kind of I'm trying to bring back where humans are at their best, which is when we can show kindness and compassion. But whenever the lyrics get too heavy and too preachy and too much like a folk music cafe where somebody's screaming things out. The music, in my view, is shot. It's dead. The music has to really sing out. And I mentioned the Hallelujah chorus. If you listen to Handel's Messiah, some of it is frankly nuts lyrics. And you're listening to it thinking, why am I doing this? Well, the whole song, the whole Messiah was written in about 3 weeks' time. I think they should have taken a little more time and polished the lyrics a little bit more. The music, out of this world. So anyway, I think if you listen to Athena, you will absolutely adore it. I think it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever written. And your average person might hum along with it. They will have no idea because it's in French and Latin what we're really saying. So you take a message, make it a good message, bury it a little bit so people have to find it, and hope that it'll grab them in some way.
Do you find that people take the music that you're creating and they're finding little things about it that they can plug into and identify with and sort of make their own? For example, anybody that creates art has their vision of what the art will be and hopefully how people will see it, receive it, and feel it. But then sometimes people will take it and they'll either add something to it or they'll come at it from a different direction that maybe the creator didn't think. And it's fascinating. You know?
Oh man, you said it. It's the Rorschach ink blot. You know, I have an idea. Here's what the music is, and oh, Jim, what you said happens all the time. We just released a song called "Training That Works," and the video was done by Dave Plunkett, who the name may not be familiar, but his art is really familiar.
Yeah, New York.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's it. Exactly. He's done so many of these kind of, I guess you call it collage type art, but it's on the New Yorker. He's done Esquire. He's done a Baron. All of these things. But what he'll do is he'll take something like Putin invading Ukraine, and he takes this complex thing and he simplifies it into this basically a tank going over the hillside and just two tones, and bingo, this is what he does. Anyway, he did our music video, which you'll see on YouTube, Training That Works. It's just amazing. Okay. The truth is that Training That Works was written by Bob Gray, with whom I've collaborated ever since we were basically kids playing at the 930 Club. And Bob wrote this because he was at work one day. He found this goofy brochure about training you could take, Training That Works. So he made this silly new wave song. I work 5 days a week. I'm the best employee. You know, I'm writing memos all day long. And it's just this silly kind of David Byrne, Talking Heads kind of vibe.
Talking Heads, right? Exactly.
Yeah, very much like a kind of tongue-in-cheek, goofy, crazy stuff.
Same as it ever was.
Yeah, exactly. So like, what's the meaning? I don't know. However, you look at Dave did this video, which is the most, he did videos for They Might Be Giants. And with us, I think he just broke through the ceiling with the Training That Works video. It shows this guy at work, and it's very much like Charlie Chaplin in, what was that film, Modern Times, where Charlie Chaplin is in this factory and getting pulled into the gears and stuff. So this guy's got Training That Works, but suddenly he is in this factory doing his thing. People have looked at this and they've given me every possible interpretation of it. And the one that I like the best, I think, is somebody said, this is Elon Musk. I said, what do you mean? This is not Elon Musk. Why do you say this is Elon Musk? And it's because in the video, there's a boss who shaves the head of the employee and puts a electronic cap on him to control him or take control back. Elon Musk has a company called Neuralinks, where he is trying to do these brain implants and frankly doing really cruel things that I'm hoping to talk him out of, where he has been really hurting, doing these brain implant experiments in monkeys, and a lot of the monkeys end up dead. It's one of many scandals that have surrounded Elon Musk, I got to tell you.
Is he hoping to take over the world or something?
Well, this is something I shouldn't get into probably too much, but I'll tell you, we are in litigation now with about these experiments. What we are trying to do is to get the video that they took of what the animals went through to make it public. And Musk and the team, they want it secret. And we are trying to blow that lid. So anyway, when Training That Works came out, it was this goofy David Byrne song, and everybody's telling me, that's not what this is about. This is, kind of the 2022, 2023 Elon Musk scandal. So anyway, it is a Rorschach. Everything we do is that ink blot that people look at it and they want to know what it is. There's another song on the new album called Marie Osmole. And I have to say, this is a kind of an insane song. I wrote it back a long time ago when I was working really hard. And sometimes I just like to let your inner primary process just go. And the song is sort of a dreamlike song about a guy who's maybe in his chemistry class had fallen asleep. And he's having these sort of dreams, idolizing, I guess it must be Marie Osmond. Explain it. But osmole happens to be a chemistry term for a quantity of a chemical substance. And so anyway, this stuff just goes all in all these crazy directions. And for that song and many others, I didn't feel a need to direct it. I just thought, if there is a certain amount of kookiness here, but it works musically, it doesn't really have to make sense. So sometimes when the Rorschach ink blots were made by a psychiatrist named Rorschach, they didn't have meaning. He just said, here's what they are, you have at it. So I have to confess, I have done some songs like that, where I'm saying, this doesn't have specific meaning. You take it, play with it, and let your psyche wrap around it.
You know, sometimes people like songs that has a neat beginning, middle, and end. But you probably don't think that all songs or all music have to have a perfect beginning, middle, or end, or that the music has to start off slow and then have a big finish and big crescendo necessarily, right?
Many songs, there is a device that a lot of musicians use now where they start really small so that they can build. But sometimes when they start small, they start too small. It's somebody just playing the little ukulele. It sounds really thin, and they do their little thin voice. And then finally the drums and things kick in and it gets somewhere. I see that. I think it's good to build, but the first note you sing, the first things you play should be good. They should be fully developed, even if they're quiet. So I think in music, I think it is good often to have an arc and to let a song develop. You don't want people to get bored. You want to come along. I did a song called The International Anthem. And it starts out with the American national anthem. But within about 2 lines, it changes to the British national anthem. And then it becomes the French national anthem. And then it becomes the Italian national anthem.
That's very cool.
And it becomes the German national anthem.
I like that.
And they all play together on top of each other. And it's my way of saying, I'm going to dissolve all these boundaries and we are all going to get along, and you're not going to go, what country you're in? And then it stops. And then it quotes We Are the Champions from Queen in this kind of goofy way, saying, okay, set aside the rivalries, let's play together. And it does kind of portend the conflicts that people get into, but then they resolve. But the way I finished this one, Jim, I got to tell you, is I then played it backwards. These pretty anthems, a cappella, done with the singer singing back. I took the tape, put it backwards. It's just the most crazy thing. But the harmony is just as good with this crazy thing of backwards singing. And then the very last line is Le jour de gloire est arrivé, the French sign saying the day of glory has arrived. The French national anthem is this most beautiful piece of music with the most bloody lyrics you have ever heard. And they're talking about the glory day has arrived, meaning marching off to, get slaughtered, basically. But I took it to mean, if we can dissolve these boundaries and let a little bit of beauty come together, we can have fun with it. So anyway, that's the international anthem. I think people will find it kind of a bold statement.
Now you're in Washington, D.C. Have you ever thought to take that song and blast it out of your windows so the whole city can hear it?
Oh my God.
It might help.
Yeah, really, Jim. There's always been conflict, but I have never seen as much as we have today. And
you could say hello and somebody finds something wrong with it. Yeah, it's too much.
You're right. And On the first CarbonWorks record, there's a song called "God Save the King," and it's about the sense of being betrayed. And the video for it, this is the one that YouTube banned. It shows the rise of hatred in Germany. It talks about Kristallnacht, when neighbor turned against neighbor, and it is frightening to see when anger and hatred take over. But I guess the point is that I never want to just make things creepy and upsetting without trying to have some word of, if this is the situation, how are we going to manage? What are we going to do? And the music always has to be beautiful in there.
It really sounds like you're behind all of this, your incredible medical background, the music background, that there's even underneath that this strong desire to want to heal and to bring people together. It seems like you've got these things that are going in tandem with each other that are, of course, responsive to the essence of who you are as a person. But it's all sort of full circle that you have this tremendous calling to want to make a difference in the world, make it a better place, whether it's through your medical prowess or through the music or both, or other things you might end up doing as well as a result of all this. It just seems like you are called to leave the room better than you found it. That's what I'm hearing.
When I was a kid growing up, I grew up in Fargo, North Dakota. For people who've seen the movie, that's where I grew up. My dad,
Josh Duhamel from there too, I think. A couple of major actors from that area.
Yeah, Peggy Lee was from there, but also Bobby B was from there. Lawrence Welk was from down the road. All these different funny kind of influences.
Interesting people, yeah.
Yeah, really. But my dad grew up in the cattle business, didn't like it. He went to medical school. He spent his life treating diabetes. He'd come home every day, he'd sit down his medical bag, and he'd plunk down in the chair. And he didn't talk about his work very much.
Yeah.
And I never, ever heard my father say that anybody with diabetes got better. And his job was to try to slow the decline, to slow the loss of vision, to slow the heart attacks. When I got into my medical career, we started doing diabetes research. And I was funded by NIH to do some new work where we found new and important diets. And what we discovered was that diabetes could sometimes go away if people made the right diet changes. And this was a stunning breakthrough that completely changed the treatment of this disease. And so we started trying to apply it to other conditions. And I guess my philosophy is the human body is a fragile thing. We're busily beating each other up. We're often our own worst enemies. And I guess there are two things I'd like to do. One is I would like to take the suffering that's in the world and diminish it to the extent that I can. And that applies to human suffering, whether it's sick patients, the suffering of animals. And here I'm making up for some bad karma because as a kid, I hunted. I drove cows to slaughter with my uncle. And I've stopped all that. I now don't eat animals at all. And I'm trying to spread compassion to the extent I can. But then secondly,
was there a pivotal moment in your life? Was there a seminal moment where that switch went on? Or was that always there and you allowed it to rise to the surface, this understanding of wanting to go in that direction?
When I was in medical school, the second year of medical school, the instructor came in one day and he said, all right, guys, form your groups. Next week is dog lab. And we all know exactly what he meant. For every 4 to 6 students, you get a dog. The dog walks in the room nervous. She's kind of wagging her tail nervously, and you put her on the table and you tape her down and you give her drugs of various kinds and you record what the drugs do. And then you slowly drain the blood out of her body. This is all part of the experimental protocol. And then a moment comes where her heartbeat stops. And the students look at each other and they say, I think she's dead. Yeah, she's dead. They start to come to, yep, she bag her up. And then at the end of the day, all these trash bags are up and down the hall, and you're telling your girlfriend or whoever what you did that day. Anyway, when the instructor announced this, I wasn't a cocky medical student, but I said, I'm not going to do that. I refused to do it. And he said, well, I'm not asking you. This is a requirement. And I said, I'm not doing it. And the student next to me said, well, he's not doing it. I'm not doing it. And I thought, you're killing the animal unnecessarily, but you're also killing something in yourself, which is that bit of compassion that says, there has got to be a way to stop this suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, for me, has been a driving force. And I'm happy to tell you that as of 2016, we had eliminated all of those labs, not just at my medical school, but at every medical school in the entire United States and Canada. They're all gone, and we'll take the credit for that. But there's another chunk of it. When you've done that work, there's also something to be said for, if you've got a little time left over, have some fun. Or create something of beauty, or share a flower with somebody. And
Right.
for me, that flower that I've got is a little bit of music, a little bit of fun, a little bit of challenge, and people to share it with. So you can't work being preoccupied with gloom and doom. You got to work. You want to make this world better, but plug that optimism into having fun and speak to the brain, speak to the heart.
I wasn't even a fan of dissecting that frog back in biology class in 11th grade.
We have worked very hard. Yeah, we've worked very hard to get rid of it. Yeah.
That poor frog.
No, I'm with you. I'm
Yeah.
with you. You know, and people are in packages that we may not understand. Animals are in packages we may not be able to understand or relate to. But you know what? What is it? Star Trek, don't they have a principle that you don't intervene? You know, I think if humans would have that principle a little bit more, leave the animals alone, leave each other a little alone a little more often, stay your aggressive impulse, I think the world would be a better place.
Beautiful guitar hanging on the wall there. Some of our viewers who have been commenting and saying hello and welcoming you as a Jim Master Show Lovety. They already said you're a Lovety, Neal, which is kind of cool.
That's sweet.
Wonderful guitar there. Tell us about the guitar that's back there on that wall.
Well, actually, I got a whole bunch of them that I use, and that is not my main one. That's on the wall. My main one is a Les Paul that I use that I really love a lot, just because it's got so much oomph in it. However, my Les Paul was in the hospital. It was recovering from a bad refretting job, and so for when I did Athena and when I did training at Works, I pulled out a Fender Stratocaster. I used the Jimi Hendrix guitar and Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar and ones that people have used, but it's got a whammy bar on it, so that allows you to really make that guitar just sing with a real clarity. So that is a Fender too, but that's a bass. And so anyway, the Strat that I use is kind of becoming my favorite guitar. I don't want to tell my Les Paul that because it gets jealous, but the Strat is a really cool guitar. So guitarists out there know what I mean.
Waukesha, Wisconsin. We were there on a TV shoot, and that's where he's from, Les Paul. And the whole area is all about Les and tributes, and Les Paul Way and Les Paul Road and Highway. It's really, really cool. What is to the right of you, this green object that's there? Yeah.
Let's see.
Right there. Yeah.
Oh,
is that like a costume or something? We only see part of it. It looks like
that's Pink. That's Pink. Pink, the singer Pink. There.
Oh, there you go. Okay, now we see the whole thing. We only saw part of it, and it looks like a green.
No, that's Pink. Yeah, she's a cool person. She's got a conscience too, and there she is on the wall.
So over the years, who are some of the performers, musicians, singers, songwriters, composers that you have admired, that you have been influenced by over the years?
Yeah, well, I started getting really into rock and as a kid and as a teenager, and then I was strongly influenced by John McLaughlin, who is not super well known to a lot of folks, but he's this astounding guitarist and really at the top of his game, and he merged jazz and rock and really just said, "Thou shalt learn your instrument and do not screw up." I mean, that's kind of the message I took from him. And he also had a huge Indian influence. He was willing to take in other sounds. And then as time went on, I started listening to a lot of French composers and French singers as well. But some of them are folks that maybe Americans may not know. I got preoccupied with the music of Vietnam for two reasons. One is that when I was growing up, Vietnam was the place you did not want to go. Mm-hmm. And secondly, the Vietnamese music, through some weird quirk of nature, uses a pentatonic scale, just like blues. So I started taking Vietnamese folk songs and having my band play them with Western instruments and really kind of messing with them. And I was a little afraid of what my Vietnamese friends would think, because you're kind of taking like, not exactly sacred things, but you're messing with their culture. Well, my Vietnamese friends loved them. They thought this is really the way to do it. So I started working with Vietnamese musicians, and one of the happiest moments I ever had was the Library of Congress did a event commemorating the boat people at the when the Vietnam War ended. There was this huge tragedy, and a lot of people slaughtered, a lot of people trying to escape, and the boat people were commemorated. At the end of that, they wanted to use my song at the commemoration. It's called "Dream of the Black Horse." And it's just this real killer song, a traditional Vietnamese folk song, sung in Vietnamese, but I put so much drums and bass and guitar into this thing to really just make it scream. And then in the middle, I stop and I go to the original Vietnamese part and have my Vietnamese friends sing it the original way. And then we go back, plug in, and knock it out. And anyway, I'm not exactly answering your question, but the point is that the influences that I have are often not necessarily an individual, but they're often cultural things. So don't ask me where the Vietnamese part came from, but French, Italian, and some of these other influences have really screamed into the music. And
what's your go-to music? What is, like, if you're placed on an island and there's only one you can pick, what would be your go-to music if you had to pick one?
Yeah, it's a little hard, but I feel like life for me kind of stopped in 1995 in Paris. There was a singer there named Alain Souchon, and he wrote a song called C'est déjà ça. But what it means is a really simple song, and it's about, it starts out with a homeless person on the street who is saying, "Here I am, I got nothing. Well, wait a minute, I got this plastic bag. That's a start." And it's this kind of funny way of saying how people who have absolutely nothing are taking pride in the little tiny things that they have, and then trying to eke out their existence. Anyway, the way he sang it was in just this simple, beautiful, musically beautiful, but also some lovely ideas. And then from that same time, there's a singer named Patricia Cass, and many others from that generation who just, to my view, took popular music, but brought something different to it.
What do you see as the future of your work and of CarbonWorks going forward? What are some things you'd like to do with the band?
Yeah, well, what I always do, I got to tell you, I always start over from the beginning. I'm never trying to do the same thing again. And I literally do this. I close my eyes and I'm in an auditorium and the curtain is closed. And I let that curtain open up. And I clear my mind and I let the music start. The musicians show up, they start doing their thing. And you just let it happen. And you listen to it for 15, 30 seconds. And then you get up and you race over to your sequencer and you start writing down what you heard. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to write music that I want to hear, not so much what I want to say. Because if it's too much what you want to say, it's often too didactic and too wooden. What do you want to hear? And sometimes what comes is too angry or too violent or something, and you have to set it aside. But let something come out that a person is going to really want to hear. So I think with our new album, I think it's called Vanishing Act, and it's coming out in the new year. And I think people are going to really, really like it because it's very varied, but in many parts really very beautiful.
That's really incredible. That's really fantastic. And from the medical point of view, I think you said that I know this is a total switch. We'll have to come back on. We'll do, because we have guests that talk about, that as well. When I realized that background, I'm like, my God, we could do a whole show on health and wellness, which we've done before. We really should avoid milk, shouldn't we?
For many reasons. It's surprising. And this is kind of like what I was talking about earlier, where things that we all grew up with, we have to let go because we were wrong. We all grew up with this idea that it's just perfect food, or same with the steak at the center of the plate and whatever. What we discovered is that milk is a huge contributor to certain kinds of cancer, which we didn't want to hear. And we've now traced out what it is in milk that causes that. And yet we still have a government and industry telling us to have it. The cows are telling us to leave it alone because what happens on a dairy farm is kind of creepy. from the poor cows being, well, it's kind of creepier than you want to hear. But to make a long story short, they all have to be impregnated in order to create milk. But then you can't let them actually have their calf because we want to take the milk for ourselves. So their calves are all taken away, killed for veal if they're males, or raised in isolation if they're females. So it's got a kind of a creepy side to it. But from a medical standpoint, our work has gotten a lot easier because there are, I mean, right, let's face it. Now there's soy milk, rice milk, almond milk, oat milk, hemp milk. There's every kind of thing.
Almond, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, there are so many choices now. It has never been easier to eat more healthfully.
Are you vegan?
I am now. Yeah, I am now. And it's the greatest thing. I don't find it hard at all.
Where do you get your energy from, your protein? What's the go-to for that, for the energy and the protein?
Yeah, well, there's plenty of protein. You know, people think of protein as being in meat, but there is protein in grains and vegetables and beans and the things that beans turn into, like tofu and tempeh and all the things that I never ate as a kid growing up in Fargo. So for me, there's no problem with protein. But the nutritional rules are that you should have grains and beans and vegetables and fruits. Do take vitamin B12, which you need for healthy nerves and healthy blood. But your energy as a vegan is going to be much better. I was just at the running store today, and we were talking about all the runners, these distance runners who are vegan. And then the runners started it, and then it was the tennis players like Novak Djokovic and Venus Williams were among the two who first went vegan. And then the basketball players started doing it. And then we've got some really heavy-duty weightlifters who have done it. What they say is, if you want to feel like a bull, feel like a stallion, eat like one. Mm-hmm. And they don't drink milk, they don't eat meat. You know, they get their amino acids from plant sources without the fat, without the cholesterol. That keeps them lean, and that keeps their energy up. So anyway, that's a whole other topic. We could spend hours talking about that.
The doctor. Dr. Lovety is in the house tonight.
Right.
That is fantastic. So you're really enjoying life. It's a blessing. It's a joy. And you're in a sweet spot, aren't you, right about now, Doctor?
There's a lot of work to be done. We've got a great team. I have about 100 people who work for me. And there's so much to be done, whether it's on the medical side, whether it's on the artistic side, and sometimes the two blend together.
They do. I want to encourage folks to go to also the website, which is a fantastic website, carbonworks.com, to learn more about the music and all kinds of things.
I should say it's carbonworksmusic.com.
So music, we'll put music.
Yeah, CarbonWorks Music.
Because there is something else that's CarbonWorks, right? There's another.
Oh, somebody's probably making some industrial product or something.
Right, like that. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, forget that. No, carbonworksmusic.com.
Involving carbon, yeah.
Yeah, forget that. And then go to YouTube. And when you go to YouTube, just put in CarbonWorks and you'll see all kinds of videos. You'll see the latest Training That Works video. That is my Rorschach. Look at that. See what those ink blots tell you.
That's fantastic. Do you see CarbonWorks touring, going places, performing at venues?
There is nothing I would like more than to do that. I don't think that's going to happen right now. The world is a little too dicey. And frankly, my musicians are from all over the place. Dolce is now in Italy. Laura is now in France. Yeah. Chris Thomas King, who played beautiful guitar in the End of the World. He's down in Louisiana. He is touring a lot with his own band. So if you get a chance to see Chris Thomas King, wherever he's playing, then he is just killer. It's unbelievable. So, man, Jim, you are going to be the first to know. I would love to be on the road, but I think our next gig is going to be in the studio, not on the road.
Somebody that's here that usually pops in towards the latter part, just wanted to say hello. Mr. George Burns is with us. He always pops in, and my aunt collected dolls, and this got passed down through the family to me, and he always pops in, and he thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and he sends you continued blessing and joy from himself and from Gracie. Good night, Gracie, right?
Oh, thank you, George. Thank you, Gracie.
This was a privilege and a pleasure, Neal. Truly, continued blessings to you and your work in the medical field, but of course, in music, double M for sure. And both of them are inspiring, empowering, and healing in so many different ways. And it was really a pleasure to have you stop by the Jim Masters Show live. Hope it met whatever expectations you had and you enjoyed the time with me as much as I absolutely have with you.
Well, Jim, my hat is off to you because you are one person who, like nobody else, touches on so many topics. You inform people, you educate people, you inspire people. You brought a lot to my life, and it's fun to be able to share this with you. So thank you, Jim.
The pleasure is all mine. We encourage folks, again, carbonworksmusic.com. Go to the website as well and enjoy the music. And music also available, Spotify, iTunes, all the places that
Everywhere,
purchase and
everywhere.
get it
Yeah.
all.
Please do,
Fantastic.
please do. But the most important thing isn't to enjoy it. The most important thing is to share it. So find somebody who needs a little love, share it with them.
That's right. Little levity for sure. Neal, thank you very much. Best of the holidays. Let's stay in touch. We'll keep the porch light on for you. Keep us posted on all the exciting things you have upcoming. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you, Jim. It's been fun.
You're welcome. You take care.
You too.
Cheers. Neal Barnard joining us here, lead guitarist, founder of CarbonWorks. Go to carbonworksmusic.com. Also, best-selling author and renowned doctor, nutrition researcher, and so much more. We didn't get into that part of it because this was really celebrating CarbonWorks, his baby there, and that fabulous band, and all the music and more. And we'll have him back maybe one of these days, and we'll talk about health and wellness and tips and how to live a healthy, balanced life as well. Thanks for all the great comments, everybody. There is their website once again. Again, you can get their music, of course, on all of the music platforms and everywhere else and enjoy it. Having listened to a lot of it, it really is very inspiring, moving, eclectic. You hear all these different rhythms and percussions and just different vibes and feelings that come at you in a unique way and an unexpected way. Just when you think you've got, what it is that's being delivered, and then all of a sudden they take a little turn here and the music takes you down this alley, down this road. It's really interesting. And it sort of envelops you. It brings you in and you want more. It's a unique sound that CarbonWorks has, and it's one that Neal crafted and maintains for the pleasure of all of us. Music that, in the ear is very pleasing and entertaining, but also then goes right to the heart and soul. And that's not easy to always master that, but that's his vision. As you can hear, he's sticking to it. That's his story, and he's sticking to it. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. Merlin says, thanks, Doc, for being here. The doctor was in the house. We'll have him back for sure. Thank you, Neal, for being here tonight. Thanks, Jim, for having him. Absolutely. Maybe one of these days we can have all of the members of CarbonWorks on, and they'll be in these little screen boxes like the Brady Bunch, and they can play or something along those lines. Kathleen in New York says, thank you, Jim. Great show. Thank you for all you do. The pleasure is all mine. Of course, around here, gang, we brought this back recently from the original episodes of our show, almost 900 episodes ago. And we say, relax. Don't forget to breathe. Don't forget to love one another, take care of one another. And as the doctor would say, don't forget to take care of yourself. Look out for yourself. I've always had to remind myself of that as somebody who always takes care of others and looks out for everybody else. I also have had to remind myself to relax. So we brought this back. We used to show this in the earlier episodes. This we got on a family vacation in Newport, Rhode Island. It was in the window. I said, how cool is this? It's got a little beach scene there from the 1920s, 1930s of Newport, Rhode Island. And it's just really, really cool. So relax, love one another, and take care of yourself. We don't say goodbye. We say see you later. And we say ciao, cheers, slancha, sayonara, shalom, hasta la vista, buenas noches. We say take care, Avidazane, slancha, moi loop, and all the rest. This is your host, Jim Masters, thanking you for your time this time. Till next time. Stay tuned. More great episodes coming up. You know who's coming tomorrow? Everybody's excited. Larry Matthews. Yes, he was Richie Petrie on the Dick Van Dyke Show. Yes, Richie, along with David Van Dusen, who created that fabulous special 60th anniversary of the Dick Van Dyke Show, and a good friend of ours, Douglas Denoff, Broadway producer and investor, and his father, Sam Denoff, was one of the head writers on the Dick Van Dyke Show. So Douglas, David, and Larry Matthews, who played Richie on the Dick Van Dyke Show, the son of Mary Tyler Moore and Dick Van Dyke, is here tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and we are looking forward to that. Really, really exciting. Also coming up, incredible celebrated guitarist and composer Adam Harley is here. He's kicking off a 65-city tour. He's in the smooth jazz realm. He's very, very talented. He's going to be here coming up. Julie Lamb's going to be here, CEO and founder of executive producer of How To with Julie Sue. She's also an extraordinary performer, musician, and so much more. And again, we're so honored to have the guests that we have here on the show coming up as well. Timothy White is going to be with us, one of the world's most sought after celebrity photographers. You see on the screen there, of course, Ray Charles and also Raquel Welch. He has photographed them all. He's coming up on an episode real soon of the Jim Masters Show Live, entertainment, lifestyle, variety talk show series. And we thank Neal Barnard for joining us, lead guitarist, founder of the rock group CarbonWorks, best-selling author, renowned doctor as well, right here on the Jim Masters Show. You didn't see him like this, but there he is when he does his day job. It's a great shot, too. Gang, you're the best. Thanks for all the love. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Jim Masters TV. If you enjoyed this episode of the Jim Masters Show Live series, then we do ask and hope you will give it a thumbs up, leave a comment on the YouTube channel, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. That helps us continue to grow and expand and continue to reach our worldwide audience of lovely viewers from all around the world. And again, you just hit this red button, subscribe on the YouTube channel, and also click the notification bell. There's a bell there, a little bell icon. When you click that, you'll never miss any of the episodes of our ongoing daily series. Ms. Pat in Texas is here, and Ms. Pat in Texas says, that's a great show. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. God bless. Great show. Thank you very much, Ms. Pat in Texas. I appreciate that. And Nellie Phillips, thank you from Australia. That's right. You're watching in Australia. We'll be back for more live. Terrific. Welcome to the show, Nellie. I know I believe it's already tomorrow there. And it's so great to have you watching, part of our international Lovely Squad watching there in Australia. And Jane watching in Sweden. Thank you, Neal, for being here tonight. Thanks, Jim, for having him. Pleasure all mine. To our audience, we thank you very much for all the love and support, sharing the links on your social media to all of our episodes. You guys take care and be well. We'll be here tomorrow. Larry Matthews from the Dick Van Dyke Show and Company will be here. We hope you're here too. For all of us, Jim Masters saying thank you very much for your time this time. Till next time, be well. And if you're watching live, another one coming up. If you are watching this Memorex, as we say, you're watching it in the archives, stay right here. You can binge watch all these fabulous episodes on our YouTube channel. Be well and take care. Cheers.